Hello and welcome back to another Honkai Star Rail video. In today's video, I am going to rank, in my opinion, what the best 5 stars are in Honkai Star Rail. Now, of course, this is going to be my opinion. Not everyone's going to share their opinion. There's probably other tier lists out there that are either the same or different. You know, everyone has the right to their own opinion. I will say that this is based on the closed beta and the information given. So, of course, I could be wrong about certain characters because if they function differently or they get buffed, whatever it may be in the full game, we will have to see. But this is based off of the information given and how I use them in the closed beta. So, one extra thing before we get started, I'm not including the Trailblazer in this because he's technically a free one and I wanted to focus more on the pullable 5 stars. So, let's get into it. Let's start off with S. So this one should be a no-brainer. I feel like Bronya is probably the best character you could pull, and is probably, cross my fingers, in my opinion, going to be the 5-star that lasts the longest as a meta unit. She just does an insane amount of support. Let me pull her up real quick. So this, I really hope I pull this character. That's how good she is. So basic attack, pretty basic. It's just wind damage, nothing too crazy there. Her skill, which is the ability to use that costs a point. The whole point of it is you can't spam it. You have to do some basic attacks. But regardless of that, dispels a debuff from a single ally, which is already huge if your character is, let's say, like stunned, whatever it may be. Huge. Advances their action by 100%, increases their damage by 39% for 1 turn. This skill is insanely good. So it cleanses and gives them an attack boost, or in this point 8 damage boost, and makes them attack pretty much right after this. Using that with certain units, like let's say Sealy, could be really strong because Sealy has an ability that lets her get multiple actions if she defeats an enemy. See where I'm going with this. Plus, let's say you run her with a healer. You heal, it's not enough, you need to be able to heal again. You can use this. There's a bunch of different applications for this. You can use it for the debuff cleanse, the moving of actions, or the damage increase. So there's a bunch of utility in one skill is just very, very good. Then we have the ultimate, which increases attack of all allies by 38%, increases their crit damage equal to 12% of Bronya's crit damage, plus 12% for 2 turns. This is just a really good buff. You can use this and then go into her skill, or skill, ultimate, whatever it may be, right? And whoever's unit you buff is just going to do a ton of damage, a lot of support, very, very nice. And you know, if you build her crit damage, you could probably get some really, really good damage from her. Then on her talent, after using her basic attack, her action is increased by 16%. So she's more likely to be able to use her skill, which is crazy because when you attack, you get a skill back. So in retrospect, you use this attack, then you get closer to having her turn come back around, and then you can use the skill. Very nice and good designed unit. And then her support when she's out in the field. When you use the technique, all allies increase their attack by 50% for 2 turns. So you'd buff her, switch to another character, attack, get their bonus. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good synergy. Now here come the dupes. These are going to be less determining, unless they like strip save the unit, which not many of them do. I don't think there's a single unit that is just really bad and then really good with dupes, at least that I've seen so far. But I'll go over them really quickly. It's just her skill has a 50% chance of pretty much not using a skill. It uses it and then gives it back. Has a 1-turn cooldown so you can't spam it. Then if an ally targeted by her skill takes action, their speed is increased by 30%. I can already see the infinite Sealy attack with these two. Then the third dupe just increases her ultimate and talents. Then fourth one increases basic attack with wind weakness. She then launches a follow-up attack, which is pretty nice to get some extra damage in there. And then the fifth dupe is just more skills up. And then the last one is the ally damage boost effect of her skill extends by 1 turn. Then when you ascend her, she gets a basic attack crit rate She gives defense by 20%, which this is huge. This won't matter if you have dupes or not. This second one is insane. I know this is Ascension 2, 4, 6, but this is the second like ability you get. 20% for 2 turns at the start of battle is really nice. And then whenever she's on the field, allies deal 10% more damage. This is just, once you have your character max, you just have this always. So she has a 10% more damage boost. She has a 20% defense boost, along with her ultimate doing 38% attack, 12% crit damage, 12% crit damage based off of her crit damage, plus her skill, so that's what, 39, 49 basically, moving the action. And if you have dupes, it's even more. It's like, what does this unit not do? Like, this is like almost all the support buffs you need, minus, like, I guess there could be more defense. She's more attack oriented as a support, but still insanely crazy. If you get this character, you're in the clear for a while. Now let's go back to the next character, which is going to kind of sound familiar. I'm gonna butcher her name. Bailu, I believe that's her name. I do apologize if I'm saying it wrong. And she fits a similar role. While Branya is a really good support, Balu is an insanely good healer. Now, upon reading this, it doesn't look too crazy. I'll go over it rather quickly so this video is not super long because I talked so long with Branya. Pretty much what she does is normal basic attack. She heals a single ally, then heals a single ally 2 more times. The next healing is reduced by 50%, and then her ultimate heals all allies based on her HP. Then they get an invigorated stacks, or invigorated, you get more. And then when invigorated allies hit, heals the ally for 5% of her HP plus 70. This effect can trigger up to 2 times with talent. When an ally is knocked down, she immediately heals them for 23% of her max HP plus an extra 204. This can be triggered 1 time per battle. And then when you start the battle with her technique, all allies are invigorated for 1 turn. So pretty much you get the gist of it. She's just a really like strong healer, and she has a revive kind of like Barbara does when she has a C6. Her dupes aren't super crazy. It's pretty much just energy, more healing, all that good stuff. Oh, there's a damage boost in one of them. And then her last one, she gets to revive 2 allies. And then her ascensions are, you can trigger invigoration more. Heals a target ally above their normal HP. The target's max HP is increased by 10%. And then invigorated characters take 10% less damage. Pretty much just massive heals, which I used. I believe her name was Natasha. Now let me check. Yeah, Natasha. Anyway. Really helpful if you have a healer, so she is probably going to be really good for a while, especially with the revive. Next, we have our first A tier. So the A tier characters, I believe, are going to be really good. However, with the release of newer characters, they can probably see less use. There are going to be 2 characters here that are going to be, I guess, controversial, and that is, I'm just going to say it now, it's going to be these 2. Oops. The only reason I have them here is because I think these 2 deserve a spot all their own, and with this tier list you can't make extra tiers, so they're just going to be in A tier for now. Not saying any of these characters are bad, but it's clear that some of these are going to age better and it just be better outright. So let's start with Jeepard. So what Jeepard does is he provides a shield. He pretty much makes your characters more tanky. Of course, everyone has the same basic attack basically. His first skill deals ice damage and then has a 65% base chance to freeze. And the enemy cannot take action when they're frozen, and they take ice DOT equal to an attack. Its ultimate applies a shield to all allies and absorbs damage equal to 38% of his defense plus 168 for 3 turns. If there is an enemy in the game that is going to hit you super hard, and I mean like over your HP, this will probably be an insanely good ultimate. I can definitely see this character being an essential unit, or maybe even a must run in some of the end game content. If you play Genshin Impact, you know how good shields are with Zhongli. Pretty much easy mode with him. I imagine it'll be the same with this character. I also can imagine that a character can come out that could be better than him, but for now this is like our best shielder. That's a 5-star. Plus, when he is struck with a killing blow, instead of dying, he restores 27% of his max HP. So that's really nice. And his technique outside of battle just gives you a shield. Now his dupes increase his freeze chance, lowers the frozen enemy's speed, effect resistance 20% to all allies, and then when his talent's triggered, he pretty much gets to act immediately, and the HP is restored to 50% instead of the other percent. Then we have higher chance to be attacked by enemies, which is really nice because he's your tank. When his unyielding will is triggered, which is the talent, he will then have his energy restored to 100%, meaning when he faints, you get to use him instantly, and he has ult. And then his last one is his attack is increased by 30% of his current defense. This effect will refresh at the start of each turn, meaning when you get him to 6, he will not really be a DPS, but he'll output a lot more damage. I say it's good enough to put him in A. Next up, we have Jingyun. Now, he is going to be a lot to explain. Pretty much how he works is pretty basic stuff, right? Deals lightning damage to all enemies, increases Lightning Lord's attack count by 2. Ultimate, big old AoE increases the attack count by 3. Now, you're reading all this, and you're like, okay, well, he doesn't do anything. Yeah, and then you get this whole paragraph. So, his talent is Summons Lightning Lord, which is the giant, like, mech-looking thing. He has a 60 base speed and 3 base attack count. Its attacks are considered follow-up attacks. Each count of Lightning Lord's attack deals lightning damage equal to Jingyun's attack on a single enemy. Who's adjacent? I can speak English right now. Sorry. Targets also receive lightning damage equal to 20% of the damage dealt to the main target. His attack count will then, go down by 1. It has a max of 10, speed's increased by 10, all this crazy stuff. After the action ends, speed and attack count return to their base values. When he's knocked out, the lightning order will disappear. If he's hit with a crowd control debuff, like he's stunned, frozen, whatever it may be, Lightning Lord will be unable to take action. So the whole gimmick with him is he attacks, Lightning Lord goes crazy. He's pretty much just an AoE DPS. Now with dupes, he has a bigger damage multiplier against adjacent enemies. When Lightning Lord takes damage caused by a basic attack and ultimate increased by 20%. Each attack count conducted by Lightning Lord, you get 2 energy. And then the last one is every attack count on the Lightning Lord will make the target enemy vulnerable. When vulnerable, enemies receive 12% more damage until the end of Lightning Lord's current turn. And then with Ascensions, you get more attack. Its crit damage, attack count is higher, you get more crit damage. You get 15 more energy at the start of battle, and then after using a skill, crit rate is increased by 10%. So he doesn't do like the most craziest thing you've ever seen. In fact, he really doesn't do anything besides damage, but since that is just so much damage, especially at this point in the game, I say he's good. Fortunately, I do think that he will eventually get replaced because he's not really doing anything besides the whole follow-up attack. So let's go on to the next character, which is Sealy, which I think will maybe outlive our good friend Jingyun. So let's go over what she does really quickly because this video is already a little long. Pretty much, Sealy is a quantum single target DPS. She gains 25% speed on her skill. Her ultimate, she enters a buff state and just does much damage. Her talent, Sealy enters a buff state upon defeating an enemy and receives an extra action. While in the buff state, Sealy increases her damage by 40% for 1 turn. Enemies defeated in the extra action will not trigger another. However, I have pretty much looped this on, I believe it was a stage to get like character XP, the item for it. Pretty much think of it as a gold ley line in Genshin. And I think one other character attacked, and I pretty much just looped her basic attack, her E, and her ult over and over and over. So she's pretty good. Her technique is after using her technique, she goes invisible, and then if she hits the enemy, she enters her buff state where she gets a 40% damage increase. Then on her dupes, she kind of goes crazy. It's speed boost, lasts for 2 turns. When dealing damage to an enemy whose HP is lower than 50, her crit rate increases by 15%. She also generates 15 energy when defeating an enemy, which is crucial for the ultimate loop I talked about. Then her last dupe is after activating her ultimate. The inflicted target enemy with Butterfly Flurry for 1 turn. Enemies suffering from it will take 18% additional quantum of Sealy's ultimate damage every time they are attacked. If the enemy is defeated by the Butterfly Flurry damage triggered by other allies' attacks, Sealy's talent will not be triggered. When Sealy is knocked down, the effect is ended. Then with her Ascensions, when she's lower than 50% HP, She has a reduced chance of being attacked. After using a basic attack, her action is advanced forward by 20%, which is insane to me that they do that. And then when in the buff state, Seely's quantum res penetration is increased by 20%. Pretty much if they're weak to quantum, they're gonna lose more of their toughness. Now the basic attack one is kind of crazy. I feel like end game OP Seely is just never gonna not have a turn. And that's gonna land her an A. I don't know if we'll get a character who will do what she does anytime soon, but we'll probably get one that does more damage maybe. But her whole chaining attacks is really cool. Now we're on to B, and this is where it's gonna start to hurt. So we have my favorite character, Welt. Now the only issue I have with Welt, he's really good. He pretty much does one thing. Imaginary damage, 1. He's the only 5-star with imaginary damage at the moment, so he's really good in that regard. Pretty much his whole deal is he attacks random enemies with his skills. Well, you target 1, and 2 of them will hit the random enemies. On hit, there is a 66% chance to reduce the enemy's speed by 10% for 2 turns. So ultimate hits everyone, has a 100% chance to imprison. Prison enemies have their actions delayed by 32% and speed reduced by 10%. And then talent, if the enemy hit is already slow, deals additional damage equal to 33 of Welt's attack to the enemy. And then his technique, you use it, slows the enemies down by 50%. Upon entering the battle, there's a 100% chance for enemies to become imprisoned, and then, you get the rest. The thing with him is he really only is here to lower enemies' speed. When someone else comes out that either has higher percentages or does something else along with it, I feel like he will just easily be replaced. His dupes are when he uses ultimate, his abilities are enhanced. When he uses basic attack or skill, he does additional damage. Extra damage from his basic attack is equal to 50% of his base attack. And extra damage from his skill is equal to 80%. When the talent is triggered, he gets energy. When using Welt's ultimate, there's a 100% base chance to increase damage received by target by 12%. That's kind of nice, I will say. And then when using Welt's skill, deals damage to 1 additional enemy. And then his dupes are ultimate damage by 25%. Ultimate additionally regenerates 10% energy and deals 20% more damage to enemies inflicted with weakness break. This is nice since he's the only person who has imaginary. Imagine if you have him, you're gonna be, breaking enemies' toughness because, unless you're just using him for the speed reduction. Other than that, main issue with him is when someone else comes out, he's pretty much screwed, which is really sad to me. I wish he did a little bit more. Next up is Yang. I'm sorry if I pronounced this wrong. Very fun character. This is the 5-star I use most in the closed beta. Very good character. The only reason I have him lower is because I think Seely is better than him at single target DPS. But he still has his advantages over her in some ways. So he does ice damage. So his skill deals ice damage, right? Activates Empathetic Sword Link for 1 turn. His ultimate increases his crit rate by 60%. When the Sword Link is active, increases his crit damage by an extra 30% for 1 turn before dealing the damage. So you get the little buff, very nice. His talent is when the Sword Link is active, he's less likely to be attacked by enemies. His crit rate is increased by 50%, and his crit damage is increased by 50% again. After he attacks, there's a 50% fixed chance from a follow-up attack dealing ice damage to 20% of his attack, which has a 65 base chance to freeze the enemy for 1 turn. And then, of course, the frozen enemy cannot attack, takes ice DOT equal to 25%. When receiving damage, the Empathetic Sword Link will disappear. So this is an issue I have. I feel like the 50% chance is a lot less likely to activate than you think. I didn't get it a lot. The chance to freeze is nice, but it can fail, so you can't rely on it too much. And the fact that if he takes damage, the link disappears really does suck when you're hit with an AoE, or if an enemy decides to taunt you. I know it's weird to think about. I can't think of a better word for it. And he's forced to be attacked, you kind of just are screwed. And then his effect is when using it at the start of battle, or before you get into the fight, he deals an extra 30% more damage for 3 turns. Whose targets whose current HP is equal or higher than 40% of his max HP. Then his dupes, when he attacks a frozen enemy, deals ice damage equal to 100% of his attack and removes the frozen effect. When the link is active, energy regeneration rate is increased by 12%. When current HP is above 80% of his max HP, his ice res penetration increases by 20%. And then his last dupe is if the enemy is defeated while he's receiving buff from his ultimate, the duration of the buff is increased by 1 turn. When his ascensions are, when he attacks, he deals additional ice damage equal to 30% of his attacks to targets with ice weakness. Ascension 4 is when his link is active, his effect resistance is increased by 20%. And on his last one is critical hit is triggered, increases speed by 10% for 2 turns. Maybe it's just me, I'm not a huge fan of if he gets hit because I feel like there were a lot of AoE enemies in the game and losing out on all those buffs really does suck. Plus I do think Sealy is generally better at doing TPS. Whew, a lot of talking. Next up are the 2 in C, which I'm just going to put them there. Maybe I just have like this agenda against Clara because I don't really like counter units in most games. But yeah, her whole gist is she has a sort of like mech thing that if she gets hit, it will attack for her. Anyway, her skill, physical damage, all that additional physical damage, and the enemy is marked by Svarg. All marked counter will be removed after the skill is used. After using her ultimate, damage dealt to Clara is reduced by 50%, and Clara has greatly increased chance of being attacked for 2 turns. In addition, the counter is enhanced. When an ally is attacked, Sarog were guaranteed to launch counters, with this counter damage multiplier on the enemy increased by 96%. Other enemies take 50% of the damage dealt to a target enemy. Enhanced counter can take effect 2 times. Her talent is Under the Protect of Svarg. Clara's damage taken is reduced by 50%. Svarg will mark enemies who attack Clara with a mark of counter and retaliate with a counter, dealing physical damage equal to 80% of Clara's attack. And then using Clara's skill will not remove mark of counter. After using her ultimate, attack is increased by 30%. After being hit, damage taken Clara is reduced by 30%. This effect lasts until the start of her next turn. After other allies are hit, Svarg has a 50% chance to trigger talking a lot really hurts. Trigger a counter on the attacker and mark them with a mark of counter. Using Clara's ultimate, trigger an additional 1 enhanced counter. I feel like once you get her at 6, she becomes better in my eye, when he can just counter from enemies hitting your allies. But other than that, the rest of it is just when Clara's attack, 35% fixed chance to remove a debuff on her. Res to crowd control debuffs increased by 35%, and then counter damage by 30%. She doesn't really do much other than counter, really. She takes the hit. I feel like at that point, if you're just going to get hit, you might as well just have Jeopard there. I'm sure she'll be fine if you like she's only 5-star or whatever it may be, but she doesn't really do too much, and unless the damage is insanely good, I'm not seeing it. And then the last one is probably my second, maybe third favorite design character is Himiko. So, or Himeko, one of those. Anyway, pretty much she does her skill, at least, hits an enemy, and then the other enemies take 40% of her attack. AoE character. Her ultimate, really sick by the way, does a bunch of fire damage, generates 10% energy if each enemy is defeated. When the enemy's weakness is broken, she gains a stack of charge, max 3 stacks. If her thing is fully charged, deals fire damage equal to 68% of her attack on all enemies. After an ally performs an attack, it consumes all charge stacks. Gain 1 stack of charge at the beginning of the battle. Her technique is, after using her technique, use a satellite beam to create a burning zone. When entering battle in burning zone, there's a 100% base chance to increase fire damage taken by enemies by 10% for 2 turns. Her dupes are, after Victory Rush is triggered, her speed is increased by 20% for 2 turns. Deals 15% more damage to enemies with HP values equal to 50% or their max HP or less. When her skill breaks an enemy's weakness, she gains an additional stack of charge, and then her ult hits 2 more times, with each additional hit dealing damage equal to 40% of her ultimate damage to a random enemy. Do note this is insanely good, I think, but it's also dupe number 6. Anyway, when she is ascended, base attack has an 80% chance to burn enemies. When affected with burn, enemies receive 5 DOT equal to 30% of her attack at the start of each turn. Skill damage, 20% more damage to enemies currently affected with burn, and when her HP is 80% or higher, crit rate increased by 50%. So you can see where I'm going with. She doesn't really do too much besides doing burning enemies and doing AoE damage. So once there is either a different fire character that is AoE or just an AoE in general, I feel like she will suffer for it. So that is pretty much my opinion on each character. I didn't think it would take that long, but I did want to talk about them a little bit. I'll have a link to this website in the description. That is my opinion on the best 5 stars minus the Trailblazer on Star Rail. When the game comes out, I'll probably test them a bit more and then make a updated tier list. Do note that, like I said before, this is based off of reading what they do and using them in game. I got to use pretty much every single character but I think Clara at some point, so I will say that's nice. Overall though, let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if you're excited for Star Rail to release. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Star Rail content. We'll be pumping out a bunch of content when the game is released and before the game is released, so you don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching.